All right, everyone. Welcome to this daily / weekly Sidereal astrology forecast. So I'm going to be traveling to Costa Rica here this week, so I won't be available for the dailies. But what I wanted to do here is give a bit more of a specific look at the weekly. We're going to look at where the moon's going to be transiting throughout the week to give you a bit more of a detailed picture. And then when I do get back, roughly about a week from now for Monday, May 8th, of course, we'll get back to the dailies as usual. All right, so this week, not a whole lot going on astrologically. We've got two main events, Mercury going direct, fantastic there. And at the same time there around Wednesday, the sun will be sextiling up to Neptune. So maybe a bit of easygoing energy on that day or this middle part of the week. Now, as we get into the weekend, Mercury is going to get closer and closer to Uranus. And this is actually the last and final aspect with Mercury, because Mercury had gone direct over Uranus, went retrograde over Uranus, and now is going direct for the last time. So the third contact here. This has been bringing in a lot of freedom in our life, probably freedom with our routine. And a lot of the stuff we have been re-examining over the past few weeks with Mercury, whether it's been wanting a bit more freedom in our life, wanting a bit more excitement, change things up a bit, structure our routine in our life in a way that's more in alignment with what we're truly about. And I think that's going to be certainly implemented this week with that Mercury going direct. And then as Mercury gets closer to that last contact with Uranus next week, implementing a bit of that freedom and change in our life. All right, but the overall backdrop of this week is that we are going to be coming into it in the third quarter phase. So about the first half of the week, very good for taking action, initiating some steps, especially because this whole lunar cycle started in Aries anyways. And so this whole month and this whole new beginning that we started last week has been about cultivating the assertive aspects of ourself. You know, taking initiative, taking action, becoming a bit clear in the process through action about who we are and what we want. And so this week is fantastic for that initiation, for taking those steps. And in the process, I think, yes, discovering more about our goals, where we're headed, and where we want to head. So yeah, great week for action. Good to challenge yourself this first half. And then as the week unfolds, especially as we get into the weekend, we start to enter into the gibbous phase, which is where we build more momentum from whatever actions we may have challenged ourselves with from earlier in the week. All right, so let's go ahead and break this down one by one, going through these days of the week here. So first thing on Monday is that we are going to be coming off of this Saturn squaring up to Chiron. So this previous weekend, maybe there was some healing that you did regarding any wounds you might feel about what you're building in your life, or about the structures, or about understanding that, you know, things do take time. And in fact, healing takes time, that there might be some wounds coming up. And I think on Monday we'll be, you know, feeling more of the healed side of this, the rejuvenated side of it. But this early part of the week, yeah, maybe there are still some wounds coming up about, you know, understanding that we can be healing through taking this action and through building these steps and through being patient. So anything that you have felt like you've wanted to build in your life, whether it's career related, family related, relationship related, goals, whatever it might be, this is an excellent week for, again, initiation, taking those steps in the face of those wounds. And in that process, through actually going through the motions of accepting the wounds, facing the wounds, this can be a very healing week. I think most of the challenging side of that was last week. And as I said, after we have the contact on Sunday, it's more on the rejuvenated side. So I think we'll be feeling a bit refreshed, a bit healed coming into this week to a degree. But again, this is a slow and steady approach, right? Saturn is about patience. It's about the big picture. But I think we'll be willing to heal patiently. Now, on Monday, we are going to be finishing up Gemini from the previous weekend as well. So this could be maybe wanting a bit of mental stimulation, wanting to share ideas, maybe wanting to learn, you know, really get into the inquisitive aspects of ourselves. So very good for that, the first half of Monday. And then the second half of Monday, as we get into Tuesday, and especially on Tuesday, more of the watery energy of Cancer. This is where we shift from the thinking mind of Gemini, the mental energy of Gemini, and go into the feelings. And so, yeah, second half of Monday and all day Tuesday, maybe wanting to reflect a bit, maybe connect to home, have some privacy in our lives, spend some time with family, or those that we may consider our family, you know, those that we're sentimentally connected to. And so, yes, with that, it can be great for nurturing, caring, a bit of that more protective energy that is Cancer. Now, Tuesday, that's when Mercury is going to start to slow down quite a bit. And so we'll likely feel these first couple days things are slowing down with the routine or with our perspective on things. You know, Mercury being the planet that rules our mind does suggest that our mind is slowing down. Our perspective is shifting. And that's what's going to take place on Wednesday, is this sort of shift to our perspective on things. And a lot of the stuff that you have been rethinking or reconsidering, or maybe has been on the back burner these past few weeks, that's all starting to shift. So allow yourself some time this week, these first couple days, to continue to reflect, to continue to rework some things if that's what you're doing. And then as there's the shift on Wednesday, it's great to sort of pause with it, right? Because Mercury's got to slow down. It's good to pause. But then once we have that new insight, or we're just seeing things a little bit differently, or things are starting to flow a bit, then it's nice to slowly start to move things forward. And I think that's what Wednesday is going to certainly be about, is a shifting day. One, because of the Mercury going direct, our minds going direct, our routine, all of that. But also the moon is in Leo, and the moon will be in Leo Wednesday through Friday. So those 3 days, this middle part of the week, could be good for a bit of fun, entertainment, wanting to express ourselves a bit, maybe get a bit creative. But the North Node's been here. In fact, on around the same time, but a little bit later here around Thursday, the moon will go over that North Node, Wednesday, Thursday. And so this is an emphasis that this whole year, 2017, has been about learning about our self-expression, learning about what we enjoy, what gives us passion in life. And so there could certainly be a new shift with that. In fact, this whole new moon that started in Aries last week, I think is very much part of a much bigger picture here. It's part of our life path. It's supporting the life path. And I think this could be a new beginning that we're starting to see from last week unfolding regarding the path to finding those things we're passionate about, and then expressing yourself in the process, having a bit of fun through that self-discovery process. All right, and what's nice here about Wednesday and Thursday as well is the sun, who is the natural ruler of Leo, is going to be sextiling up to Neptune. So we could be feeling a bit easygoing, a bit tranquil, maybe relaxing. We could be getting a bit of rest, but I think it's just a bit of flow. And we could, again, with Leo too, just have a bit of flow with our self-expression, especially because this part of the chart is very well placed. As you can see, there's a grand trine that has been forming up between the North Node, Saturn, and this exciting Mercury conjunct Uranus. Again, Mercury being very close to Uranus this week does suggest some changes of freedom and mixing things up a bit. So yeah, I think that's very nice. And this is when we start to enter into the gibbous phase as we get into the weekend, about Friday, with the moon still in Leo, things becoming more supportive with the lunar cycle. It's a bit of momentum being built. And again, anything that is about self-expression, fun, creativity can be very supportive at that time. So then as we get into the weekend on Saturday, the moon is going to be shifting into Virgo, which does emphasize a bit of the more practical side of things, right? We could be maybe taking care of matters, wanting to improve things in our life or fix some things in our life in terms of our, again, routine, or maybe with our environment, or maybe with ourself. In fact, as I always say, with the moon in Virgo, it is an excellent time for self-improvement, personal growth, personal development, things like that. But yeah, anything that does require that organizational and analytical and improvement aspect of yourself can be great to balance and work with there on the weekend. Then as we get into Sunday, and more so next week, yeah, Mercury will be very close to that Uranus, but I have a feeling this is going to be all week long, is a change, mixing things up. What can we change about our routine? What new insights are we gaining at this time about making those changes and structuring our routine, structuring our life in such a way that we do have more freedom? Now, it could be a very innovative time for those of you who are, thinking about, let's say, your career or family related stuff, or, relationships or something. Throughout this process, I think there's new perspectives. There's seeing things in a new way and some aha moments, right? Uranus can give us some unexpected ideas that just sort of come out of the blue. So yeah, so that'll be a great week for, again, implementing whatever it is we have been reworking these past few weeks during the Mercury retrograde. Slowly but surely, Mercury does have to come out of his shadow, which will be towards the end of the month, towards the end of May. But yes, implementing with flexibility, right? We've learned a lot during the past few weeks. What can we now put in motion and continue to learn by actually applying, by actually putting things in motion? And in that way, I think specifically with where we can mix things up, have a bit of excitement in our life, or just come up with new and different ways of thinking about things and looking at things to gain some, new ideas and to propel those areas forward. So at this point, let's go ahead and look at this specifically, because each of these things that are taking place this week are involved with your specific houses, your specific areas of life. So down below in the comment section, there is timestamps next to each of the different signs. You can watch them for your sun, moon, and ascendant sign. I do recommend the ascendant fundamentally, and there's a birth chart calculator there if you know your time of birth to find that ascendant sign. And then your sun and moon also. Sun being the outer perspective on things, and the moon being the inner world, the spiritual world, the emotional world as well. And sometimes we'll resonate more with our sun sign than our moon sign, for example. So I do recommend all three. And do keep in mind also, this is for sidereal astrology. This reading is different from mainstream astrology. So if you are new to the channel, you'll want to check the link down below about sidereal, because the signs are different, and you'll want to make sure you're watching this video for the right sign. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the specific signs. All right, welcome Aries to your segment of the weekly forecast. So let's have a look first at your first house. Obviously, you have your sun in your first house. Happy birthday for those of you watching for your sun signs who have your birthdays this week. But all of you have started a new moon here last week. So being the first quarter phase this week, it is excellent to be taking those initiative steps towards cultivating any new goals you might have. Any new things that you want in life, cultivating that independence. This is all what you're about anyways. The first house is Aries house. And this is about the initiation. This is about building the confidence and courage through taking steps in life. And I think this is really kicking things off for you both in a monthly sense, but also in a yearly sense as well, as this lunar cycle builds momentum and as we go through the rest of the year. So it is in many ways like your solar new year here. All right, so with that being said, your ruler Mars is in the second house. I think you're very motivated towards finances. We'll look at that a bit more in just a few seconds here. But yeah, very good for anything that motivates you financially, materially. You're learning more about what you value in life with your ruler there in the second. Now, mind you, even though it is a very active time and it is about cultivating, again, those personal needs of yours, there is a lot of still uncertainty. There's a lot of this stuff behind the scenes that's going on with you at the moment. And this is all this energy in Pisces in your 12th house. So you do have Mercury going direct here on Tuesday. So a lot of the stuff that you have learned perhaps these past weeks or even months really with all of this 12th house activity particularly the past few weeks. Anything you've learned about surrendering, letting go, maybe with the routine, maybe with the work, maybe needing some rest and relaxation. But it's also, you can have more freedom, right? And that's that Mercury very close to Uranus. It'll be very close all week. And so, yeah, freedom of letting go, freedom of detachment, freedom of surrendering everything outside your control can be very liberating. And, really is a type of spiritual liberation here, finding that true happiness in life when we're fully accepting and, being with how things are and accepting for how things are. So anyways, with that stuff, it is good for listening to your dreams still. There might even be some new information coming into the mix about your intuitive side, your spiritual side. Your inner guidance could be shifting around Tuesday. And yeah, just implementing, I think, more of that intuition, more of that acceptance in your life is just fantastic this week. So looking a little bit deeper here at the financial side of things, yes, Venus is in that 12th house of yours. So, it has been over these past months, this more behind the scenes stuff with the finances. Maybe it's uncertain, or maybe you are just willing to go with the flow a little bit with it. Maybe it is flowing. But whatever it is, I think Mars in your second house is giving you the motivation and the drive to cultivate those things that you do value in life, whether they're financial or otherwise. And so using that motivation is great. There's going to be continuous new beginnings with this area. The next new moon will be in your financial sector. And so activeness with receptivity is, I think, the name of the game here with this area. Now, in terms of your work, this is seen by that Mercury. So if you have been, again, reconsidering the importance of more of the tranquil or receptive or letting go and accepting aspects of your work, of your routine, things like that, I think it is great to implement. And you'll probably notice that shifting on Tuesday with that Mercury direct. Things just starting to move forward. Give it some time. As I was saying, it does take time for Mercury to gain momentum. But every time Mercury goes retrograde, it's always this reflection and redoing with your work and routine. And now I think that stuff will start to move forward in a way that you'll likely be implementing more of, again, that receptive approach to it. All right. Now, in terms of the relationship sector, this is seen by Venus also in your 12th house. So as a larger picture, these past months, yes, maybe perhaps a bit uncertain about it. But I think usually when Venus is here, it's a lot easier, right? So you're probably much more accepting, compassionate, understanding in your relationships at the moment, easygoing, that sort of thing. But yeah, also too, if there is any uncertainty about it, just understanding that this is a time with your relationships that is about letting go, right? And being present with it and enjoying the now moment with that area, with those in your life, and overall just your perspective on relationships at the moment. Now with your sun in the first house, because this whole cycle is now starting about you and like what you want and your independence, that could be certainly playing a role with relationships. So as you're cultivating this new sense of you could say, and your goals and things, as you're changing, I think your relationships will be changing in a very positive sense, because as we become clear about who we are and what we want, obviously that's what's needed in relationships. We have to be clear about who we are to have healthy relationships and cooperation and that kind of balance in our life. And very good for your self-expression right now at the moment too. It could be fun, playful, creative, especially so maybe about Friday or Wednesday through Friday when the moon's in your 5th house. All right, but Aries, the way I would sum up this week is it's a continuation of the new beginnings from last week involving you, what you are, who you are, and what you want in life, how to cultivate that. A lot of it's motivated by the financial sector, which could be very good, or your values or your resources, your sense of self-worth, your confidence, your self-reliance, all of that is increasing. And things moving direct, probably with your routine and work, having to do with more receptivity, more tranquility, the importance of that, just all in all in your daily life. All right, so Aries, have a fantastic week. Thank you for all of your likes, comments, and shares with these videos. And I will see you all next week for the daily forecast. Take care. All right, Taurus, welcome to your weekly forecast. So let's first have a look at your ruler Venus, which is suggesting that it has been a time of your aspirations at the moment. Very good time for cultivating them. Some of you may be connecting with your network circles as well. But anyways, all of this stuff about the future or even about those network circles have been going through a reflection these past few weeks with Mercury retrograde. So all of that's starting to move forward. And I think this early part of the week, asking yourself, what is it you've learned maybe about your community, your friends, your network circles, or probably more personally, what have you learned about what you want to cultivate in the future? You know, what are your hopes and wishes for the future? And now what can you do to cultivate them? I think you've learned a lot about that. With Mercury very close to Uranus, there's probably a lot of innovative ideas about this kind of stuff. And that could certainly be emphasized this week with Mercury very close to that Uranus. You know, it's all about freedom here with cultivating those things that you do feel like are important for either you in the future or your community. And usually, too, they go a bit hand in hand. You know, that the things that you're aspiring towards are also the things that are great to be connecting with when it comes to your community and your friends and things like that. So anyways, that's very much emphasized. This whole cycle, though, has been about you finding peace. The last week's new moon was in your 12th house. You have the sun in the 12th house. A lot of you are working a bit behind the scenes right now or trying to get some rest or relaxation, things like that. And I think that's a great idea. I think anything you can do this week to challenge yourself with cultivating more acceptance, more peace, more flow in your life, whether you're busy or not, is very good here. I think a lot of you are busy, though. You do have Mars in your first house. A lot of you are very driven, very active right now, very direct, very expressive with Mars here, and very motivated towards the things you want in life and very clear about the things you want in life, you know, relatively speaking. So I think that's going to continue to be emphasized this week, but it's an interesting, you know, combination here. You've got the aspiring side of yourself, then the spiritual, tranquil, deep psychological side of yourself being cultivated this week, yet you're very active and direct, which I think finding a way to maybe, you know, integrate all three of those can be a good way of looking at this. Now, let's look specifically at the financial side of things. That's ruled by Mercury for you. So when Mercury goes direct on Tuesday, a lot of you might start to see a bit of forward-moving energy with finances or anything involving investments or money or something like that. If over the past few weeks you've been learning a lot about this area or redoing this area, as is the case always when Mercury goes retrograde for you. But if you've been reworking this stuff, it's an excellent week from Tuesday onward to start to implement, try new things. Again, there might be some new innovative ideas about that with that Uranus. Now, in terms of your day-to-day work, nothing specifically here from what I can see other than, you know, Venus has been in your 11th house. And so your work is about future things, about your aspirations. And maybe even, again, networking can certainly assist your work at the moment. Maybe there are still some unhealthy patterns that, not specifically this week, but just generally, you know, this whole year, basically. Maybe there have been some unhealthy patterns that you've been letting go of regarding your work or career that you can bring some health to, but nothing specific this week, but maybe just something to keep in mind about that. And in regards to relationships, again, nothing too specific, but your ruler of the 7th house is in the is in your first. So as it has already been the case, I think relationships is being emphasized. I think as you're cultivating this directness and expressiveness and activeness and independence, it is probably directly relating to relationships being emphasized in your life. Maybe you're thinking about them. Maybe you're cultivating new and existing ones. And I think that can continue. Nothing specific this week again, but yeah, it has been the theme. Now, in terms of Saturn, Saturn is going retrograde back into your 7th house here for the last time. So maybe there are some things you'll be still building with patience with relationships, the grounded perspective, taking things nice and slow in that department, which you have already been doing for the past couple years, or at least integrating and learning more about that grounded, disciplined approach to this area of life. And let's not forget, Jupiter is in your 5th, although retrograde. It is an excellent time to be enjoying things, learning more about what you find passionate in life, what you enjoy in life, and expressing yourself in the process. And a lot of that more entertaining, fun energy. It's great to learn about, and we'll likely start to move forward a bit more in June. All right, so Taurus, have a fantastic week. Thank you for all of your support. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below, and I'll see you all next week for the daily horoscope. Take care. Geminis, welcome to your weekly forecast. So first, let's look at the fact that your ruler Mercury is going direct on Tuesday. So I think things are moving forward, as is the case about 3 or 4 times a year. When your ruler goes retrograde, good time to reflect on things, reconsider some things, redo some things in your life, really. And so if over the past few weeks you've been redoing, this can be a good time to now implement Tuesday onward. Again, while Mercury's still in his shadow, still be flexible, but very good for now moving this energy forward. If there has been anything you've been reflecting on, probably in regards to your career, your productive life, the things you want to achieve in life, that's where a lot of the reflection has likely been, and that's where I think things are going to start to shift for you here around Tuesday. So a lot of this is about having freedom with your work, freedom with your career, with the things you do want to achieve in life, and that's been your ruler very close to Uranus. These past few weeks are actually longer, about the past month. And so, yeah, implementing freedom, mixing things up, having a bit of excitement, maybe even aligning your career in a way that it's a greater expression of what you're about, right? Anything on that achievement success level. So that's being emphasized. And also this whole cycle started in your 11th house last week, this new moon. So it's an excellent week for challenging yourself with your aspirations, your 11th house. And so anything you can do that you might be focused on regarding future matters, such as your hopes and wishes for the future, but also some of you too, maybe networking, connecting with friends, community, things like that. Excellent week to challenge yourself with that area and just all in all cultivate it in whichever fashion you feel like that's, whatever direction you want to take with it. Now, looking specifically at the financial side of things, this is seen by the moon. The moon will be in the first quarter phase, which is a challenging part of the lunar cycle, but it's that you want to challenge yourself. What can you do this week to, to take the grounded, practical steps, the responsible steps financially, and then I think by the end of the week, it'll probably start to flow a lot more Thursday onward once that moon starts to get into the gibbous phase, the more supportive phase, and enters this grand trine. I think things are certainly moving forward for you, but I did want to mention with the first quarter, as it is every month, this time of the month, good to take that grounded approach to the financial side of things. Now, in terms of your work, a little bit more in detail, yes, there's been a lot of reflection here, and it's an excellent time to implement this. I think you can be enjoying your career, enjoying your work, as it has been the case with Venus up there in the 10th, or through the relationships that you meet. Could be directly, related to your career and your achievements in life. And you're learning about what you value in your career, what you enjoy there as well, with Venus also. All right, and then Mars is in your 12th house. So your routine is kind of behind the scenes right now. When it comes to like your everyday work, maybe some of you are taking a bit of a break right now, a bit of a pause or you're reflecting on some things, or you're getting a bit more tranquil with it. So anything that you can do, I guess, behind the scenes, or maybe getting some rest, could certainly facilitate the whole daily routine side to your work. Now, regarding relationships, nothing specific this week, but yeah, a lot of you are reflecting on things relating to your home or your health, as has been the case, and that's very much playing a role in relationships. As you're getting in touch with your home, or whatever it is you're reworking here, reconsidering, as well as you're getting in good health or learning more about your health, that is directly relating to your relationships. And a lot of that stuff will probably start to move forward a bit later in June, early June next month, but still a great time to be learning about, yes, what is it that's important to your foundations in life, such as home and health. Also, what's important to you emotionally in relationships, right? Having good emotional connections rooted in soul, rooted in spirit with your connections, which is what the 4th house is all about. And yeah, and maybe some of you too connecting with family and building some relationships on that level as well. All right, so Geminis, the way I would sum up this week though is your ruler going direct Tuesday. As the week unfolds, give it some time, but as the week unfolds, more forward moving energy for you. A lot of this is in regards to your career, your productive life. This whole week is very much about your future aspirations, maybe connecting with community, and working a bit behind the scenes, or getting things done in a bit more of a receptive way, especially with your routine. Can be excellent, can help you flow, and just have more acceptance in your life, and with Mars there in the 12th. All right, so Geminis, have a fantastic week. If you did find this video helpful, be sure to like, comment, and share it. I do want to thank you all very much for all of your support, and I will see you all next week for the daily horoscope. Take care. All right, Cancers, welcome to your weekly forecast. So let's look at your ruler of the moon, who is going to be in the first quarter phase this week, suggesting that it is a fantastic week to challenge yourself, particularly the first half, up until we get closer about the weekend, and then there'll be a lot more support and flow, I feel like, in the gibbous phase. But yeah, as it is every month, actually twice a month, there's the first quarter phase and the third quarter phase, which are good times for initiation, for taking steps, taking actions towards whatever it is you might be focused on. I do think a lot of that is in regards to your career at the moment, which we'll look more at. That's where this whole last lunar cycle started. But all in all, yeah, just a good time to be taking some steps and initiating some things in your life. Now, there has been a lot of 9th house emphasis. Mercury's going direct in your 9th. So where things are moving forward for you is likely with your worldview, and where you can have a bit of this adventurous spirit. For those of you who've been reflecting on matters relating to either travel, long distance matters, philosophy, higher learning, marketing, things like this more expansive stuff in life, that's all starting to move forward. And it'll take some time, but I think as you go through the week, probably feeling a bit more adventurous, a bit more open-minded in whatever capacity that means for you, and how you can have a bit of freedom through this more expansive view. You know, this has been Mercury very close to Uranus. Uranus has been helping you have more freedom with you know, accessing that adventurous and open-minded aspect of yourself. So that's all being cultivated, implemented this week. And yeah, anything you can do to expand those horizons, whether they're mentally, emotionally, or quite literally, is fantastic. Now, I'm looking at the financial sector for you. You've got the North Node in the second house. Fantastic year for learning about finances. And this week could be emphasizing that. Maybe Wednesday through Friday when the moon goes into Leo, your second house. So, yeah, there's a grand trine in this area. I think there's support with it and a bit of flow with this area, especially around, you know, really all week, because on Tuesday, you have the sun sextiling Neptune. And so the sun rules your second house, sextiling Neptune. Maybe you're just easygoing about it, flowing. Maybe there's some financial opportunities. They're more about, you know, I think more of a receptive approach to it, how you can enjoy it or be grateful for what you have and you know, just kind of flow. But it's easygoing there. And yeah, and I think just all in all this week, learning more about how you can cultivate this self-reliance, these personal resources, your sense of self-worth, all of the stuff you've been learning about in the larger picture of things. Now, regarding your work, you do have, yes, that sun up in the 10th house, where the sun actually loves to be very strong. A lot of you do have a lot of energy, even though collectively we still have this Pisces stuff. You guys have the sun and Mars at the top of your chart. Your vigor is quite good. I think your focus is good. And I think a lot of it is about where you can have this achievement, this success, this work, this career, whatever it is you're focused on, perhaps on a productive level. And so fantastic week to challenge yourself with that, and then things will start to move forward. They're already moving forward in this area, but there's a bit more of this flow about it by the second half of the week, this momentum being built with it, and vigor as well increasing as your ruler does get closer to that full moon, which will be next week. And not to mention, yeah, that Mars in the 11th house, which is more probably relating to relationships for you on some level. On one level, it's about the work, because I think a lot of you are motivated by the value of your career and the finances of your career, and that could be a motivating force. But regarding relationships, a lot of you are probably very direct with your network circles, your community, your friends. A lot of you are very motivated here to connect to your, you know, friends and network circles and things like that. So whatever motivates you, that's an ideal, whether it's relationships or not. But your ideals, those that you know, those things that are greater than yourself that you want to be a part of, right? It could be good for like philanthropy, humanitarian stuff, or joining groups, organizations. All this stuff can really unlock this motivating force for you, and could also be a great way of meeting people and yeah, making friends and that sort of stuff as well. All right, so Cancers, the way I would sum up this week is, yes, your ruler, first quarter phase, great week for challenging yourself. The first half, by the second half, a bit of momentum being built, specifically with what you've been focused on the career front lately, maybe what's motivating you with the income or finances or the value you derive from that career. And things are shifting this week with your whole perspective of life, of your worldview, of where you can cultivate a bit of that adventure of how life is a path, it's a journey, and yeah, expanding, and the freedom that brings with that Uranus there. All right, so Cancers, have a fantastic week. Thank you for all of your likes, comments, and shares. If you did find this video helpful, be sure to like, comment, and share it with your friends and family as well. But have a great one, and I will see you all next week for the daily horoscope. Take care. All right, Leos, welcome to your weekly forecast. So let's first look at your ruler, the sun, who is in your ninth house. I think a lot of you are focused on expanding your horizons right now. Some of you may be learning some new philosophies. Some of you may be starting something with higher learning. Some of you may be even doing some things that are long distance or involving travel and adventure. So whatever it is, an excellent week for challenging yourself here with this, particularly the first half, when we're going to be in the first quarter phase, which is about initiation, taking steps, and again, building that confidence, which does come from taking steps. And it could be anything having to do with this more expansive stuff with your ruler there. The moon will be in your sign Wednesday through Friday as well. And I think by that time, things will probably be a bit more active for you, or you're just seeing a bit more flow, a bit more support, as then that moon starts to get into the gibbous phase, right, where there's a bit more momentum being built throughout the week. I also want to mention that there is a lot of 8th house energy for you. Mercury is going direct in your 8th house, so it's been a time of inner exploration these past few weeks, couple weeks in particular. And so if you have been diving deep or facing any fears, you've been maybe becoming more holistic in the sense that you're accepting all aspects of yourself, the good, the bad, the beautiful, the ugly, you know, all aspects of self, usually the things we've buried under the rug, so to speak. But you've been lifting up that rug and you've been accepting all these qualities of life, basically. You know, we can see ourselves in life, but it is all these elements of life. And as you accept, and I think you've been doing that, but as you continue to do that this week, it's about implementing. Where can you be open, be vulnerable with life? And in that sort of perspective, I think you're learning a lot, continue to learn a lot, but now really integrating that into your being and really seeing the freedom that that brings. You know, with this Uranus involved here. Mercury very close to Uranus this week. There's a tremendous freedom when you are connecting to life on a deeper level with that openness and vulnerability there. All right, so now looking at the financial side of things, this is seen by Mercury, who rules your second house. He is going direct on Tuesday, so if there has been things you've been re-examining, redoing, rethinking, involving finances or investments, money, things like this, that starts to move forward. It is good to be as kind of, you know, flexible and adaptive with this area up until Tuesday, and then Tuesday onward, yeah, probably this area is starting to move forward, so to speak, but really about you integrating this sense of self-worth, self-reliance, you know, again, confidence in all of this, that things do unfold in divine timing, and also too the importance of relying on others a bit. You know, I think that's another aspect of Mercury in your 8th house. A lot of you may be re-examining like your debts, other people's money, but then also how to rely on others in your life, because even the most self-reliant of us are dependent on others. In the financial system, for example, you know, we're in an interdependent world. And so I think you're learning a lot about that, and yeah, maybe some things shifting, which again is involving this more deeper connection to life, really examining what matters most to you and just connecting on that deeper level and having a bit of trust too with others' finances, with others, whether they're materially or emotionally. All right, now in terms of the work sector, this is seen by Mars, who is in your 10th house. So very good time for motivating yourself towards your career, your productive life, as it has been the case. Nothing particular about this week with Mars or Venus or Saturn, who rule your 10th and 6th house. But Mars is up at the top. Your vigor should be quite good, especially as we go through this week and we build a bit of momentum with the lunar cycle. But yeah, you got the motivation, you got the drive, and I think that's fantastic, even though, again, you're reworking some things on a deeper level. When it comes to the productive stuff, I think you've got that wherewithal. Now, regarding the relationships, I think most of this is probably in the deeper aspects of things again, as you're becoming more open and vulnerable. So are your relationships. And I think that's a great way of looking at this. You know, Tuesday, things probably moving forward with that in terms of connecting on that deeper level and showing appreciation, gratitude, having trust in your relationships, again, whether it's emotional or whatever. Most fundamentally, the 8th house is emotional, though. You know, emotional trust in your relationships, and even just with the everyday interactions of expressing yourself, being who you are, and And that can be a very constructive element for you in relationships. And, you know, this whole year is about you being independent, you cultivating your personal needs. And so as you do that, you're going to find that does directly benefit this relationship stuff. Because the whole relationship area, you know, this year you've been letting go of some unhealthy patterns with it, or yearnings or attachments or whatever it is. And so as you're becoming more independent, more clear about who you are and what you want in life, that is directly supporting your relationships at the moment. All right, so Leos, have a fantastic week. Please let me know if you have any questions about this week. But I'll see you all next week for the daily horoscope. Take care. Virgos, welcome to your weekly forecast. So let's look at the fact that your ruler Mercury is going direct after his 3-week-long retrograde. So great time to be implementing this week, Tuesday onwards. Still being flexible with Mercury still in his shadow, but just generally, you know, you'll probably start to notice things are moving forward for you generally. And a bit more clarity about where you're headed, what you want in life, and that sort of thing. A lot of this has been regarding relationships, which we'll look more at when we get to that part of this video. But yeah, any new insights about, you know, learning about who you are is directly proportionate to relationships. And all the stuff you're learning about relationships is helping you learn more about who you are. You know, that's the paradox, that we see ourselves through others. And there's a link here, and they're really just two sides of the same coin, and how we have to have good independence to have healthy relationships, and we do have to have healthy relationships to have healthy sense of self. Now, looking at the financial side of things next, let's look at this sun in your 8th house. You've got this whole lunar cycle that started last week in your 8th. Some of you may be starting some new things involving shared resources, inheritance for some of you, loans for others, anything that does involve either others' finances, or most fundamentally, you know, just having a bit of, you know, a reliance in the sense that we live in a very interdependent world, and everything financially is involving relying on either others in the economy or others in our life and our personal life and things like that. So with this whole new cycle you've been, and it's a fantastic week for you to continue to see the deeper dimensions of life beyond the material realm, right? Connect to what matters most to you in life. And if it is financial in that sense, you know, it's having a bit of that, that interdependency and trust with others there as well. Now, looking at the work sector, which is seen by Mercury, who rules your 10th house of career. If you have been reflecting on a lot of the career stuff over the past few weeks, that's likely moving forward. Again, maybe it's linking up your career with your relationships as you're learning more about them or developing them in your life. That could be developing your career, whether it's partnerships with your career or your clients with your career, things like that. But fundamentally, yes, things are moving forward in this department, and taking all of the stuff you've learned this past few weeks and now implementing it regarding career and productive stuff is fantastic. A lot of this is about freedom, in fact, as Mercury's been very close to Uranus and will be very close to Uranus this week. A lot of you are feeling very much about like being your true self, implementing this freedom. Next week, Mercury's going to go over Uranus for the last time. That'll be the final integration. But yeah, an excellent week for freedom with yourself, with relationships, and also that career stuff as well. Now, looking at relationships specifically, because this area is being very much activated for you. Yes, you got your ruler here going direct on Tuesday. So as I was saying, if there's been this whole new perspective that you've been reconsidering with relationships or redoing, rethinking, or it's been more on the back burner, that stuff begins to move forward. And I think it's specifically about freedom in relationships. You know, Uranus has been showing you this for the past 7 or 8 years, the importance of this. Individuality of freedom, but also freedom of space and of being in general. This is you being who you are, allowing your others to be who they are, so to speak, and meeting in the middle. Two individuals coming together for healthy, free relationships. And Venus is here too, so I think you're enjoying them. I think you can be connecting to them as you're also healing with them. I don't think there's anything particular about healing this week, but that's still a backdrop. And yeah, Venus enjoying connecting on that level as well. All right, especially with Jupiter, your 7th house ruler, in your 1st house. Yes, it's very much a time of self-discovery. Through that self-discovery, it's helping you connect to your relationships. You're becoming clear about what you want, which is helping you become clear about what you want in relationships. And as you cultivate relationships, you're learning so much about yourself at the moment. And yeah, be flexible with all this stuff shifting around Tuesday, but an excellent part of the week, Tuesday onward, to implement what you've learned here. All right, so Virgos, the way I would sum up your week and just this general time period is, yes, relationships are emphasized. Those are moving forward for you this week in terms of perspective, and anything else you have been reworking or putting on the back burner involving them, and maybe in some way is linked with your career and productive life, which is also moving forward. This whole cycle has been about you connecting to the deeper dimensions of life. What can you challenge yourself with this week to be open, vulnerable, if it's on an emotional level or an interpersonal level, but also too in terms of financial, where you can, have a bit of that interdependency and relying on others, that sort of thing, and anything new that is healthy that you might consider, like, using others' money or loans or things like that, could be cultivating this week. And you do have Mars in your 9th house as a backdrop too. I do want to mention that it is a fantastic time for you to expand your horizons, open your horizons, whether it's through philosophy, opening your mind, or quite literally, through a bit of that adventurousness. Can be very motivating with Mars in the 9th. All right, so Virgos, have a fantastic week. Thank you for all of your likes, comments, and shares. If you did find this video helpful, be sure to like, comment, and share it with your friends and family. But yeah, thank you very much, and I will see you all next week for the daily horoscope in a week. Take care. Libras, welcome to your weekly forecast. So first things first, your ruler Venus in the 6th house. Yes, things are very much emphasizing your routine, your health for some of you in terms of your diet, your regimens, and just all in all, anything that you do on a daily level, very much being emphasized. You got Mercury going direct here on Tuesday with this. If you've been rethinking some things involving your routine or your work, all the self-improvement stuff, or finding solutions to things, fixing problems, whatever it's been, now it's all starting to move forward so you can have a much, healthier, grounded routine. Good time management, energy management. I think you've learned a lot about it. I think a lot of it has been about having freedom with your routine and with your work and daily stuff, which is what Uranus has been helping you cultivate the past 7 or 8 years. How to have your day, whatever you do on a daily level, be more in alignment with what you're about, and to have it be free and different and mix things up. And with Mercury very close to Uranus, I think that will be emphasized this week. Now, looking at the financial side of things, this is seen by Mars, who is in your 8th house, suggesting that first of all, with Saturn, a lot of you have been perhaps working hard or patiently, or having to work with limitation in the financial department the past couple of years. Now, that can be a very positive thing as you limit yourself through discipline, patience, the grounded, responsible approach to finances. You can be building good material security with that approach. But a lot of this is about, I think right now, either other people's money or relying on others financially, or loans or inheritance, things like this, or just all in all seeing how you can work with both your finances and others at the same time, in the sense of like the economy, that we are very dependent on others. The most independent of us are dependent on others because the whole economy relies on everyone else trading and exchanging goods and services. So yeah, very motivated here though. I think you can unlock a bit of motivation by maybe working with others' money or others' finances, things like that. And things could be cultivating there if you're intent on anything in that department. Now, looking at, with balance, of course, with Mars, you do want to be aware of the fact that sometimes we can go, we can want things too much there. It could be overboard. But with balance, yes, there is suggesting that there's some motivation here about connecting to other people's money, and that could be maybe a source of income or something like that. And if not that, maybe most fundamentally, connecting to what matters most, asking yourself what matters most to you in life and how you can cultivate that with that patience of Saturn. All right, so anyways, looking at the work sector, this is again very much seen by all of the 6th house energy. Things are moving forward with your work this week as Mercury goes direct. Give it time. But again, a lot of this is about having more freedom with your work and your routine. And whatever you've learned these past few weeks about it or have specifically reworked, excellent week for implementing and challenging yourself to cultivate that stuff. Now, regarding relationships, this is a very important area, considering the fact that last week you had a new moon in your relationship sector. So a lot of you have planted some new seeds, and maybe this week you're starting to see some of these seeds are sprouting regarding either new relationships in your life or existing relationships, or your whole perspective of relationships is changing. And so it's an excellent week to challenge yourself. What can you challenge yourself with this week to initiate, to take steps towards, in order to cultivate whatever it is you're focused on here in the relationship department? Then as we get to the second half of the week, you'll probably find a lot more support and momentum being built from whatever you initiate earlier in the week with that. And it's just a great time to be expressing yourself, maybe even having a bit of fun in those relationships as well with the sun there. All right, so Libras, the way I would sum up this week is, yes, 6th house is very much being emphasized. This is your work and your routine. Things are moving forward there, and I think particularly with implementing what you've learned and any new insights or different ideas and things that you've maybe gained during the retrograde in Uranus. And again, so you can have more freedom there with the work and routine. Very good time for depending on others, and if it's not financially, maybe it is in terms of asking yourself what truly matters to you most in life and connecting on that level. And maybe even too, just getting open and vulnerable. And I think you're wanting that. I think you're wanting to pierce the veil and get into what matters most, even in your relationships. The 8th house is about the values of relationships, which is that openness, that intimacy, that vulnerability, taking the relationships to the next level. And whether it's with your everyday relationships, you may be more direct with wanting that, or probably more specifically with your existing relationships, wanting that as well. And that's what this whole lunar cycle is about, this whole month is about, is you cultivating this new perspective shift of your one-to-one connections. All right, Libra, so have a fantastic week. Thank you for all of your support, and I will see you all next week, a week from now, for the daily horoscope. Take care. Scorpio and Ophiuchus, welcome to your weekly forecast. So first, let's look at general backdrop here. Your ruler Mars is in the 7th house of relationships. We'll dissect the relationship sector more so here in a bit, but yeah, I think you're very motivated here, very driven, and very direct in your relationships. And I think it's a fantastic week for this. Nothing new necessarily with this department from what I can say, other than there might be this, in fact, very likely the shift of your self-expression. I think a lot of you over the past few weeks have been learning more about what you're passionate about in life, what you enjoy in life, which has been the Mercury retrograde in your 5th house. And so, and even the freedom of, having fun, or freedom of expressing yourself, or some of you are starting some new creative things, or maybe reflecting on romance, in fact, for some of you. But whatever it is, it's about the playful energy. It's about the fun, expressive energy in life in general. Could be specifically with relationships shifting for you here on Tuesday. But most fundamentally with yourself, yeah, what have you learned about your self-expression? What have you learned about what you're passionate about in life? And how can you implement that this week in a way that is more in alignment with your true self? All right, so let's look at the financial side of matters, which is seen by Mercury, who rules your 8th house. In this, weekly forecast. I think maybe some things that if you have been reflecting on other people's finances in some way, other people's money, or loans, or even government stuff like IRS or something like that, if you've been reworking that stuff, and some of you too with just having a bit of interdependency in your life, reflecting on the importance of that, relying on others a bit. That's all starting to move forward for you. So the financial area, which has been going through a lot of transformation over the past many years with Pluto, you're releasing, the attachments to the things that you do value, and through that detachment, you are transforming here continuously. But there's a bit of a pause with that with Pluto retrograde, which is nice. And I think anything moving forward that does involve other people's money on some level could be moving forward for you as well here around Tuesday. Now, looking at the work sector, this is seen by the new moon from last week in your 6th house. This whole new beginning, this whole lunar cycle now, this month, from what started last week, the lunar month, is about your work, is about your routine, your health, your diet, your regimens perhaps as well. So anything you can do to challenge yourself this first to middle part of the week regarding your work, your development of your craft, your routine, your time management, energy management, things like that. You're building the momentum, you're building the confidence there, and as the week unfolds, there's more and more support for this area, especially when the moon goes into your 10th house, probably around Wednesday through Friday. There's this, hired energy of you now really supporting this work with probably bigger picture stuff and learning about your career, because this whole year has been about learning what you want to do in the long term, productively, career related. And maybe there's nothing new necessarily, but it's taking these steps. It's learning about it, trying new things with it, and that could be a very supportive element as we go through the rest of the week. Now, regarding relationships, this is, again, very much emphasized because your ruler's in the 7th house. Very good for that directness. Anything that motivates you here in the relationship department. And really balancing your personal needs with others' needs, right? Because Mars is all about our needs, and it is your ruler, the 1st house ruler. So in the first, it's like you're learning about yourself through relationships. And, you know, we can't have healthy sense of self without healthy relationships. And we can't have healthy relationships without a healthy, clear sense of who we are and what we want in life. So there's a good synergy here. There's a good balance. And that's what you want to do, is balance it, because Mars can be quite direct. It can be quite deep. It can be quite destructive sometimes if it's too fixated on what we want, or on wanting that deeper connection or whatever it is. So it is about cooperation. And I think you are willing to do this, right? Cooperate, work with others, find a bit of harmony, things like that. And so as you have that balanced perspective there, I think the relationship department is certainly building for you. And that'll also be the location of the next new moon, next lunar month, in your 7th house of relationships. So all of this directness and motivation is sort of setting the stage for this. So is that self-expression. You know, you get all this 5th house energy. That's moving forward for you Tuesday, what you've learned about fun, passion, expressing yourself. That's another very positive force in your relationships, especially with Venus down here in the 5th. You're seeing the value with all this and the enjoyment of this expression, playfulness, fun, whatever that perspective is, creative energy there. All right, so Scorpion and Fucus, the way I would sum up this week is Mercury is going direct in your 5th. There is a shift with your self-expression, fun, hobbies, interests, creative things close to your heart that you've learned about, now being implemented slowly but surely. Give it time. Of course, Mercury still has to gain that momentum, get out of his shadow, but there's a shift here. And I think a lot of the shift is about freedom of fun and expression. This whole cycle is about your work and your routine, so I think focusing on that is fantastic. Self-improvement is fantastic at the moment. And yeah, this theme in a larger sense, that this is a time of relationships, learning about them, but really, you know, being yourself through them, learning more about yourself through them, and the importance of having a clear sense of independence through them as well. And that's setting the stage for the new beginnings next lunar month. All right, so Scorpion and Fucus, thank you so much for all of your likes, comments, and shares. If you did find this video helpful, be sure to like, comment, and share as well. And I will see you all next week, a week from now, for the daily horoscope. All right, have a great week. Take care. Sagittarius, welcome to your weekly forecast. So as a backdrop, your ruler Jupiter is in the 10th house of career and productive things, future things in life. And so you're reflecting on a lot of this. And I think it's another great week to do that. Jupiter's not forming any exact aspects this week, but again, as a theme, very good for that, reflection on matters, particularly pertaining to the future and the productive side of things. Now, balancing all that with what I think is a very watery time, in fact, in terms of your home, perhaps, family matters, and your health, any of those, or a combination of those. And so that's been Mercury retrograde through your 4th house, suggesting that there's been something to redo, rework, involving your home or your health, something like that, these past few weeks. And now this week around Tuesday and onward, things are shifting here. They're moving forward. So taking a lot of what you've learned about home or your health or whatever it is, or whatever you've been reworking here, and now implementing it this week with flexibility, mind you, because Mercury still has to get out of his shadow. But yes, great for implementing moving forward, whatever it is you've learned about this area or have been redoing with it. And I think a lot of this is about freedom with this area because of Uranus's proximity. So close to that Mercury, suggesting that Uranus over the past 7 or 8 years has been helping you have more freedom with your home life, more freedom with your health. And I think all the stuff you're learning or redoing can certainly be playing a role with that. And as I said, starting to move forward for you here Tuesday onward. All right, now looking at the financial side of things, nothing particular from what I can see this week specifically, but Saturn, your second house ruler, is retrograde in the 12th. So this does suggest that it has been the past couple of years of you maybe taking a more receptive or hands-off approach when it comes to finances, or maybe there's been uncertainty or clarity, non-clarity about it. But Saturn has recently gone retrograde, so maybe there's been a bit of a lift with this, right, where you get a bit of a break with maybe more of the concern about it or something like that, if it has been on that level. But the best way of working with this is really to be developing yourself spiritually at the moment, letting go, faith, trust, acceptance, and that is helping this area flow. And it could even be too that some of you could be deriving income from more giving things in life that are either spiritually related or social work or philanthropy, things like this that could be a source of income for you. It's possible there. All right, but the most fundamental thing is, yes, more of a hands-off, surrendering approach, allowing this area to flow. It's suggesting a spiritual perspective here to this area. But nothing specific this week, just wanted to do a general backdrop reading about that. Now, looking at the work sector, this is seen by Mercury is going direct. Mercury rules your 10th house of career. So every time Mercury goes retrograde, it's a good time to relearn, redo some of that career stuff. And I think with Mercury at the bottom, some of you, yes, are implementing, combining the work with the home, or the productive life with the personal life in some ways, needing some integration here. And I think you've already learned that or integrated that to a degree. So now it is about sort of implementing that, moving that forward, whether it's new ideas. And a lot of you probably have had some new ideas, actually, some new freeing things, again, about freedom, maybe with your career, maybe with your home stuff, with Mercury so close to Uranus. And so, yes, week of implementation, week of challenging yourself towards where you can have a bit of fun, I think, because, or express yourself or get creative. Some of you maybe have started a new business or something because you had a new moon last week in your 5th house, and this is an excellent week for challenging yourself creatively, maybe with hobbies, interests, things like that. Whether it's career related or not, it's just an excellent time to be creating and expressing yourself. And as the week unfolds, probably more momentum to do so, more support to do so. Now, looking at relationships, the 5th house is the house of self-expression and even romance. Some of you maybe have even started a new chapter of romance in your life, whether a new relationship or bringing romance into an existing relationship. But again, fundamentally, this is about self-expression. So as you're developing now this lunar cycle, as we move forward in this coming weeks and months in the solar year with this new beginning, a lot of you are expressing yourself, more focused on having fun or more focused on those things that are close to your heart. And so what is close to your heart, and what can you do this week to, challenge yourself here to cultivate these things, to spend time with these things, to implement them. And yes, as the week unfolds, probably more support to do that. And that could specifically be relationship related because, again, it's the fun, it's the expression, it's that creative energy that involves all areas of life, including those relationships. But Mercury also does rule your 7th house of relationships. So Tuesday, things are likely going to start to move forward for you in this department, as it is for your home, health, career. All right, Mercury rules very fundamental. He's very much involved in very fundamental aspects of your life, your roots, your career, your relationships, and all of that is starting to move forward. So with him very close to Uranus, maybe it's about freedom in relationships as well. Maybe it's about individuality, being yourself, maybe some change, freedom, some space, all of this, even creative energy with Uranus too, very innovative, progressive energy starting to manifest in your relationships as well. And moving forward, I would say most fundamentally, if they've been on the back burner or you've been reconsidering some things in the one-to-one department. All right, so Sagittarius, I hope you all have a fantastic week. Please let me know if you have any questions down in the comment section below. But I'll see you all in about a week for the daily forecast when I get back. All right, have a great one. Until next time, take care. All right, Capricorns, welcome to your weekly forecast. So as a backdrop, Saturn is in your 11th house, your ruler, as it has been the past couple of years. An excellent week to cultivate your future aspirations. And anything that maybe you're redoing, rethinking about this with your ruler retrograde for about the next 5 months. What can you redo about your hopes and wishes for the future? What are you rethinking about them? What are you learning about them? And even in your relationships, as far as your network circles and community, what does all this mean to you as well? Because over these next 5 months, roughly, you'll be learning a lot about all of these things. Now, looking at this whole lunar cycle, you did just start this new moon in your 4th house of home and health last week. So some of you maybe relocating, some of you renovating, some of you a new perspective of your family or new family members, things like this. And maybe others, just a new path to your health and your overall emotional and physical well-being. So whatever this root stuff is, this personal stuff is for you, these anchors, it's an excellent week to challenge yourself. I think the first half of the week might be quite busy with this area. A good time, again, to initiate, take some steps, build some confidence, some courage with this in some way. And then as we go through the rest of the week, we enter the gibbous phase, which is more supportive, more momentum is being built from whatever you could be challenging yourself with this department this week. And as a reminder, you do have a lot of 3rd house stuff, so a lot of 3rd house energy astrologically. So you could be enjoying maybe reading, writing, communicating, exchanging. Maybe there's some things you're rethinking or redoing involving this mental or exchanging social stuff, perhaps trade, business, things like this. But that starts to move forward on Tuesday. So if over the past few weeks, the synergistic everyday stuff in your immediate environment, short distance travel even of the 3rd house, whatever's been reflected on now starts to move forward Tuesday and onward for you there regarding these things. And a lot of this is about freedom, mixing things up, trying some new things with learning or with business or whatever it is, and with your routine, your everyday environment. And that could be very exciting actually all week long and moving forward into next week as well. So now looking at the financial sector for you, nothing specific this week from what I can see. There's been this whole larger backdrop about you maybe making some changes with the financial sector this past year, roughly, of removing any unhealthy patterns, unhealthy attachments and yearnings, which is really helping you connect to the deeper dimensions of life. That's the North Node in the 8th house. And this could be emphasized Wednesday through Friday, in that you could be learning about this openness with life, this vulnerability with life. Maybe if it is financial, depending on others a bit, or working with other people's money, loans, things like this, cultivating a healthier area here with this department here probably being emphasized middle part of the week. Now, regarding the work sector for you, you've got Mercury going direct, who rules your 6th house of routine. So if your routine's been on the back burner or you've been redoing some things with it, that does move forward on Tuesday as well. And it is about freedom in your routine, freedom with your work. If you've been coming up to some new ideas about innovative ideas with your work, trying some new things. Again, this is your everyday routine stuff. And whatever you do on a daily level, whether it's your work or not, but generally your work here is getting mixed up. And that, not mixed up in a sense of like crossing wires or confusing. I mean, getting like mixing it up, having a bit of fun, excitement, trying some new things with it. And you'll probably be implementing a lot of that this week, which could be exciting. And even next week when Mercury goes over Uranus, you could really be cultivating more of that freedom with your routine and work, which could be quite exciting as well. But right now, a lot of what you're learning is about maybe, implementing healthy communication. I think a lot of you have learned a lot about communication in your routine these past few weeks or with your work. And the importance of learning to gain knowledge, like practical knowledge, trade knowledge, things like this. And what else? And yeah, just all in all, just your whole perspective about what it takes, the work it takes to cultivate the things that you do enjoy, the things that you're passionate about on the routine level. So anyways, all that moves forward, and you'll likely notice a bit of momentum being built, again, as we go through the week with that. Now, regarding relationships, nothing specific here, but Mars is in your 5th house, so it is, and as it has been, an excellent time to have a bit of fun, express yourself. A lot of you are expressing yourself in very direct ways, and yeah, and understanding more about who you are and what you enjoy in life. And as you cultivate more of what you enjoy in life, it's helping you express yourself, have a bit of fun, and that is directly relating to your relationships at the moment. All right, so Capricorns, hope you all have a fantastic week. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, be sure to like, comment, and share this video with your friends and family. And I hope you all have a fantastic week, and I will see you all in about a week for the daily horoscopes. All right, take care. Have a great one. Till next time. All right, Aquarius, welcome to your weekly forecast. So as a backdrop, yes, your ruler Saturn is retrograde up in the 10th house. Some of you are maybe reconsidering some things involving your productive life, your career. But all in all, it's just a good time to be maybe taking a bit of a step back, having a bit more of a receptive approach to things over the next 5 months with your ruler retrograde. Not majorly, right? Because your ruler goes retrograde for almost half of a year. And so it isn't about like, not doing anything. It's just having a bit more of a receptive approach, rethinking some things, trying new things, being flexible, adaptive, see where things take you during this time period. But anyways, this whole lunar cycle has been in your 3rd house, and this is the house of your mind, of practical knowledge, of learning, of books, of writing, of trade, of business, basically anything that's about synergy, exchanging things, because even reading a book is like you're receiving information, or trading, through, buying and selling things, whatever that might be, or short distance travel, moving around your immediate environment. Even some of you too connecting with like a new relationship with your peers or your siblings. But anyways, all of this synergistic stuff is starting this, is continuing to move forward this week. And I think it's a great week to challenge yourself with it. What new has started here with 3rd house matters? since last week, and what can you do this first half to initiate, to take some steps with, build some courage and confidence with as you implement it. And then as you go through the rest of the week, the second half, you'll likely notice a bit of momentum, a bit of support from whatever you might initiate here in this department. So looking at the financial side of things, you've got a lot of energy in your second house. You got Mercury going direct in your second house. So if you have been reflecting on financial matters, redoing some things, rethinking some things here, this all starts to move forward for you. And I think what's really moving forward is the importance of having more freedom with this area, right? Which is the Uranus here. Uranus over the past 7 or 8 years has been helping you have more freedom with, not being bound by the finances, not being bound by the money. Although money is important to have good foundations in life, ultimately this is about the freedom of enjoying our life, enjoying the things we have in our life, being grateful for what we have, and the freedom that brings. So however that's manifesting for you, I think there is a shift here. It's Tuesday onward. I think it's a great time to implement what you've learned about finances, and I think most fundamentally about your sense of self-worth, your sense of self-reliance, your confidence in that, yes, you do have the ability to enjoy and cultivate the things you value in life. But it's very freeing with Uranus, and Mercury being very close to Uranus all week suggests lots of freedom with implementing, this new perspective about what you enjoy in life and how to connect with that. Now, looking at the work sector, this is seen by Mars down here in the 4th house. There's this combination taking place between your career and your personal or home life. Some of you are maybe working from home or spending more time at home or developing more personal relationships with those in your work and career, or maybe doing things in your career that are more about nurturing, caring, protective stuff, or home, family, health stuff. But whatever it is, I think it's an excellent time for all of you to find that balance, right? With your ruler in the 10th of career, that's been the big picture. But now Mars opposing up to that, getting close to an opposition there, is suggesting the importance of balancing both your personal life and your career life, right? You got to be good health. You got to have good personal relationships. You got to have good family if you want to have good productive and career type of life as well, and vice versa. In order to have good personal life, we do have to have good productive career life. So it's that kind of a thing going on. Nothing specific this week about it, but as a backdrop, I did want to mention that. Now, looking at the relationships, yes, last year, this year, lots to learn about relationships. Great time to try new things with relationships. New things are starting. Relationships could be emphasized Wednesday through Friday for you when the moon's transiting Leo. And yeah, great time to be just enjoying a bit of fun there, expressing yourself, which is what you enjoy and what you value in your relationships anyways, with Leo there in the 7th house for you. And all the stuff that you are cultivating about your communication. Maybe this new chapter about communication relationships, or maybe about learning with relationships, sharing ideas, knowledge, all of this is really the emphasis with this department. All right, so Aquarius, I hope you have a fantastic week. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please like, share, and comment. If you do have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them for you down below. But have a great one, and I'll see you all in about a week for the dailies once I get back. All right, take care. Until next time. All right, Pisces, welcome to your weekly forecast. So first things first, your first house. You got a lot of energy here in Pisces. You still have Venus here, and Mercury's going direct in your sign. So while it has been a great time to be enjoying some of your personal needs, some of your goals, and just maybe sprucing things up with your self-image, things are moving forward about a bit more clarity about who you are. Because Mercury going direct in the first house can often mean that during the retrograde, maybe this past 2 or 3 weeks, 2 weeks while he's been in Pisces, but during the retrograde, maybe some re-examination, some rethinking about who you are, what you want, and you know, what you want to cultivate in terms of your goals and things. So all that's now starting to shift, and I think Tuesday onward, you'll likely notice that shift. Although give it some time, Mercury's got to gain his momentum, but a shift about, yes, this is, you know, to a degree, this is who I am, this is what I enjoy, and this is what I want to cultivate in life. And by all means, it's an excellent week to do that. A lot of this is about freedom, right? Uranus in your first house the past 7 or 8 years has been helping you find more freedom of being who you truly are and literally shaping your life in such a way that it is a greater expression of who you truly are. So you're learning about this. There's excitement, or just there's these new things. It's progressive. It's outside the ordinary. It's outside the box. And so implementing that this week, whether it has to do with yourself, your goals, new ideas, whatever it might be, it's all about freedom and innovation here, shifting. Now, looking at the financial side of matters, this whole lunar cycle started in your second house of finances, investments, savings, financial security. And so that all started last week. And so this week, being in the first quarter phase, what can you do to challenge yourself to cultivate these values of yours, this financial material stuff? Challenge yourself this first half of the week, and then what you'll likely find is, as you initiate, as you build that confidence, the courage, the energy to cultivate this area, as the week unfolds, there's more support, there's more momentum that you're building. And this is a short-term thing of this lunar cycle, but also of the next solar year regarding, in some capacity, this new beginning with your values, resources, and finances. Now, looking at the work sector, this is seen by the sun, who rules your sixth house of routine in the second, does suggest that this whole new beginning about finances could be very much relating to your work or your routine at the moment. And so this is about your sense of self-worth, right? So as you're developing the self-worth, the self-reliance, the self-confidence, I think it is directly supporting your work. And some of you might be actually dealing with or working with finances through your work, or again, building that inner resource in the process, you know, getting more in tune with your natural gifts, your natural abilities, your natural skills, and developing those. Because last year and this year is very much about learning about your career. You know, you've had the North Node in your sixth house, and this could be emphasized Wednesday through Friday, in fact. But yeah, you're learning so much about time management, energy management, your work, and just trying new things here. Life is supporting you to learn about and to try new things with your work. And I think there's a lot of support with that at the moment. Now, looking at the relationship side of things, this is seen by that Mercury. Mercury rules your seventh. So if you have been on the back burner about some relationship matters, rethinking them, you know, reconsidering them, whatever it is, your perspective, because let's face it, this area is very much emphasized for you. You got your traditional ruler Jupiter in the seventh, has been there for a very long time, you know, the past 7-8 months, I think, at this point. But yes, what have you learned these past couple of weeks about it? And a lot of this is because you're gaining more insight about who you are, as we were talking about before. I think that's regarding the relationships, because as we discover more about who we are, that directly impacts our relationships, right? And as you've learned about relationships, you're learning more about who you are, you know, seeing yourself through others. So this whole paradox, this whole balance between you and others is shifting. And I think you're going to notice from Tuesday onward, although again, give it time, you're going to notice things are moving forward for you in this relationship department. And I think a big theme about it is about freedom here. The freedom of being who you are, but also the freedom of having freedom in relationships, the importance of that. And that could be exciting, new. Some of you are trying some new and different things, some new ideas. All of this is about mixing things up with those one-to-one connections. All right, so Pisces, I hope you all have a fantastic week. I do want to thank you all very much for all of your likes, comments, and shares of these videos. So I'll see you all in about a week when I return. And so in the meantime, have a great week, and I'll see you then. Take care.